Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, money and politics reporter, Kyle Khan-Mullins. Kyle, thanks so much for joining me.
Always great to be here, Brittany. Thanks for having me.
You have some interesting reporting on former President Donald Trump and his finances. You're reporting how Trump made millions as partners ditched his brand. So you set the scene at the start of your Forbes piece, the summer of 2017, out front of a Trump Manhattan property. Take us there.
Yep. So, summer 2017, you might be thinking, this is one of Trump's properties in Midtown Manhattan, his famous Trump Tower, one of his big hotels. This is another one of his hotels. He used to own a hotel called Trump Soho down in the Soho neighborhood of Manhattan. And at this hotel, a group of protesters dressed up in Russian army uniforms played the Russian national anthem, flew a Russian national flag, and projected an image of Vladimir Putin on the side of the hotel, giving a thumbs up and saying, "Happy to help, bro." This was a reference to the alleged help that the Russian government gave Donald Trump in getting elected in 2016. This was a kind of a poke, trying to poke him, trying to make him mad about these Russian connections. Regardless, the projection came down, but Trump's name came off the hotel pretty soon afterwards. And I think that this anecdote is a kind of an illustration of some of the stressors that his hotel empire was facing right after he became president.
Let's talk about some of those stressors, because in the Forbes piece, you posed this question: how did Trump make money by taking his name off a building? And why were the buildings taking his name off? You point out some of the disadvantage of the Trump brand. What were they, specifically when he was in the White House?
Yeah, so the Trump brand before he was in the White House was this sort of epitome of luxury. That's the classic association. After he went to the White House, it still had that association, but it also had all of the controversies that were tied up with, I think we could probably safely say, the most controversy-laden president in recent memory. And so as Trump continued to make these very controversial comments, say things about certain groups of Americans and other people and other countries, and was constantly attracting sort of negative media attention, his brand started to suffer. We see this in his condos, we see this in his hotels. The value of the brand seemed to go down a little bit.
So how was he profiting off of these breakups? Take us through the agreements he had with some of these buildings.
So Trump had this managing and licensing company that basically the way it worked is a hotel would come to the company and say, we want you to manage the hotel for us, and we want to put your name on the hotel. Use the, so it's Trump Soho. On this hotel that Trump didn't actually own this hotel, to be clear, but he managed it and he put his name on it. It was his brand. Now that's totally normal. There's plenty of hotel companies that do that. Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, a lot of these big hotel chains do the exact same thing. They own some hotels, and then other ones they're just licensing and managing. But what Trump, when you sign these contracts, and then if you want to back out of those contracts, often you have to buy out the rest of the contract. And so what appears to have happened in a couple of cases is that the owners of these hotels paid Trump, it seems like, millions of dollars to get out of the contracts with his company.
Did he get a payout every single time that a building took his name off, or sometimes did he lose money? What did that look like?
So we don't see evidence of a payout every single time that there was that someone took a name off this building. We're actually not even 100% sure that these payouts were in fact from the contract buyouts. But the key thing we see is, I think there are 5 hotels that we looked at where Trump's name came down. This was a hotel that he did not own, but that he managed and licensed, right? And we see in his financial disclosures a big spike in income around the time that the name comes down. That tells, and that's in 3 of the cases, not all 5, but in 3 of the cases we see that. That tells us that there was probably a contract buyout going on.
Talk about how big of a spike that was. How much is Forbes estimating he received in these buyouts?
So I'll take you through all 3 hotels real quickly. So there was Toronto in 2017. That was actually the first hotel to take his name off. And we see a spike from about $500,000 a year in management revenues to $2.2 million. That's a pretty big jump for just 1 year. In Soho, that was the next one, we see a jump from about $3 million a year to $17 million a year. Again, pretty sizable jump in those revenues, again, just in the course of 1 year. And both of those were in 2017, and both of the spikes happened in 2017. The third, Hawaii, a little bit more complicated. His name actually came off the hotel in 2024, earlier this year. It was announced that his name was going to come off the building in 2023, but we see the spike in 2022. We're not really sure what to make of that, but again, we don't have a better explanation than they bought out the contract and announced it later.
So he's making millions and millions just by other properties getting rid of his name. So how does this stack up to the other money he's made in the licensing and management business?
So yeah, we're estimating that this is anywhere from $15 to $25 million that he could have potentially made from these 3 hotels taking his name off. Again, and this is based on the spikes in revenues that we see immediately following or around the time that his name is taken off. That's out of total profits from his operating management licensing business of $110 million between 2017 and 2023. So you can do the math there. That could be as much of a quarter of his money from his brand company was coming from taking his name off of buildings, not putting it on them.
So post White House stint, how is his licensing and management business doing? Is his name and is his brand as radioactive now as it was in 2017, 2018, when he was president, even shortly thereafter in 2021?
So I wouldn't say that his brand is quite as radioactive. I mean, obviously he's running for president again. He's actually significantly more popular than he used to be, and he's significantly richer than he used to be. My colleague Dan just reported that he's the first person to make $1 billion off of politics. So clearly something is going right for him in that regard. He's also, after years of his hotel management empire shrinking, again, taking his name off of 5 hotels. He also sold his DC hotel, and a project in Rio never actually came to fruition. He's actually expanding now, and there are 2 new Trump hotels that are supposed to open in Oman and in Dubai in the next couple of years. And he's already made millions of dollars from those deals.
The properties that took his name off, essentially their thinking must have been, based on your reporting, we can make more money without your name, without this association. This is dragging down our revenue. After they cut ties with the Trump name, were those properties making more money?
Again, it's hard to say. The hotels wouldn't give us financial figures to tell us exactly whether they made more money before and after. There was some reporting from Bloomberg a couple of years ago that suggested that the Soho Hotel did benefit significantly from being able to take Trump's name off, even as other luxury hotels in New York were actually seeing a slight decrease in revenue per room. Theirs was going up. And there's some anecdotal evidence that people who didn't want to stay at Trump hotels would be totally fine to stay at a hotel that didn't have Trump's name on it. So you can take that with a kind of a grain of salt.
Kyle Khan-Mullins, per usual, I appreciate your reporting. Thanks for coming back on.
Always great to be here, Brittany. Thanks so much.